Okay, so we're back on Ocean Avenue or the next apartment. Just wanted to ask you a little about your grade school days. Where was your school relative to your house? What was how big was your class? What was a school day like?
I think we lived at 345 Ocean Avenue, I think. Uh, but we definitely lived on Ocean Avenue between Beverly and Cortelyou. And I was in kindergarten there and in first grade. That's how long we lived in that place. And my daddy used to take me, when he would go to work in the morning, he took the subway. And our schedule was such that he would walk with me to the corner right before the school. He would walk me up to that corner, and then he would stop. His subway was there, and I would go on to the end of the block, way.
And so in first grade, he wouldn't walk you all the way there. You would
No, no,
you'd go off that last little bit.
no. But he was pretty careful.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let any of those men come get me.
Okay.
Uh, and then I don't remember about getting home. I think my mom came and picked us up uh, from grade school.
Ruth was in the same school.
Ruth was in the same school.
Any memory of what a day after school was like? What you did between school?
Not really. The extracurricular activities I remember were dancing school, which I loved, and so did Ruth. My father let us go. My mother persuaded him that was good for us. He let us go, let us go until finally one year he said, "You can't go anymore, and you're finished with dance school." He came to some recital.
Because finances were tight that year, or you'd learned enough?
No, because he wasn't going to raise two daughters to be hoofers.
Oh, I see.
And we always said, we think he said hoofers, but we're not sure. So we stopped dancing school. We continued on. We took piano lessons, and I remember practicing the piano with the metronome. But even that, they didn't push us to. So for extracurricular activities, amazingly, I was kind of more on my own to do the things that I thought were going to be interesting rather than what my parents led us to. And so I would say starting in high school, I was a lot more influenced in my extracurricular activities by my friends and by my friends' families' activities than I was by mine. In terms of things like concerts or Dorothy's father, my close friend Dorothy Hodes, her father took us to a nightclub once when we were like 15. Actually, it was a great jazz club down in the village. And I learned about things like jazz. And in my family, we didn't have a telephone until I was about 12 years old, I think. I still remember the thrill of getting a telephone. And back then, you might be on what's called a party line. And in a party line, you'd pick up the phone and you'd go to talk, and there'd be somebody already on the line, and they would have to finish their conversation. So, but we didn't have CDs. We didn't listen to a lot of good music or stuff like that. I heard all of that stuff at my friends' homes.
Although you could listen on the radio.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, well, we had regular radio stories. Saturday night, we used to, Ruthie and I had twin beds, and we used to listen to Lights Out. There was a program called, it was a mystery program, and the sign-off line was, "Lights out, everybody."
And the radio was what size? You could have it in your room?
You could move it, but it was not small. It was big. Oh, and in my house, one thing. What am I saying? We didn't listen. We had to listen to. There were 3 news broadcasts, and my father listened to them all. He was quite sure if he missed the third one, there would be something extraordinary happening. He was a big man on the news. In fact, we went through a whole big scenario of my pleading with him on Sunday to subscribe to or to get the Sunday edition of the Daily News rather than the New York Times or the New York Herald Tribune. The New York Herald Tribune had no comic strips, none, nor did the New York Times. So I had to suffer reading the news in the New York Times, and he wouldn't buy the Daily News. He just wouldn't buy it. So I was pretty good at persuading my father to do things, but I didn't succeed at that. But anyway, the radio, we had to listen to the news at 6 o'clock. We had to listen to, there was a guy at 7 o'clock. We had to hear both of them. I mean, you didn't have to be in that room, but if you were anywhere near where the radio was, you had to hear them. And then at 10 o'clock, Gabriel Heater came on. We used to listen to Gabriel Heater. He was awful.
You remember?
Yeah, but what I do remember are my programs, Little Orphan Annie, Tom Mix, Tonto. I actually heard who was that masked man. And Ruthie and I, to listen to the radio, we had those old-fashioned radios that you've seen that they're kind of shaped cathedral-like. And when we listened to our programs, we used to go sit right next to the radio, like this, so as not to miss anything. And once Uncle Don told me where my birthday present was.
And where?
It was in the piano bench. And I couldn't get over, how did he know that my box was in the piano bench?
And who was Uncle Don?
Uncle Don was a program. Every kid knew Uncle Don.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Hello, nieces, nephews mine. I'm glad to see you look so fine. How's something? How's something? Da 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 da. And then today is Monday. Today is Monday. Monday chicken. Tuesday. Come all you hungry children. Yeah, that was Uncle Don.
That was Uncle Don. Well, you're singing now, and the dancing stories remind me that I've heard stories of you and Ruth
being brought out to perform in front of the company.
Yes. Tell us about that.
When my parents would have friends over, they didn't have a very glamorous social life. We never had babysitters. My father didn't believe in babysitters. He said he had the children, he'd watch them. And in later years, he wasn't so happy about babysitting either.
Yeah.
I watched mine; they can watch theirs. But if people came over in the afternoon, get it to be around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Come on, Dorothy. We had a baby grand piano, which we slept with us all over. Come on, Dorothy. Let's play. The girls can sing something. And my mother used to come sit down. My mother could play anything by ear. I mean, you can imagine if she took lessons for so many years. She used to play, and Ruthie and I used to perform, sing, and dance. So.
I remember there was one song in particular that your dad liked when you would sing.
My heart belongs to Daddy. There was a play on Broadway with Mary, I can't think of her last name, but the big hit from it, My Heart Belongs to Daddy, wasn't the kind of daddy my daddy had in mind, but he thought that song was written for him and me, and I was always designated to sing it, and I did.
So he didn't know. The line, if I invite some socialite to dine on my fine Finn and Hattie, though I adore his...
He's asking for more, still my heart belongs to Daddy.
So he thought that was about
he thought that was
a filial devotion.
that they were writing about us.
Okay.